Realtor.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor listeners. Today I have Dylan Hernandez, Rockwall, Texas Realtor. We're probably going to be getting a lot more realtors on this platform. It's a space that I've been in for a long time, and I always love dissecting how people do the business. I mean, we had a little run of a lot of coaches on the platform. We're probably going to have a little run of a lot of realtors on the platform. But thank you, Dylan, for being here today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be able to be here.
So let's get rolling. You're in Texas.
Yep.
I'm in Southern California. I would think the markets are a little bit different. Walk us through kind of what your market looks like, what you service. So if people are listening, they kind of have a reference point.
Yeah, so I serve the DFW Metroplex, so I cover a pretty wide area right now. I've done deals as far west as Weatherford, as far east as Tyler. I cover a pretty big spot, but as far as the market right now, it's starting to heat up pretty quick. We did start seeing it slow down towards the middle of the year. I think that's pretty much everyone this year, just with interest rates and everything else. It slowed down a little bit, but we're really starting to see it pick back up again. Starting to see multiple offers, and it's looking like it's going to kick up pretty good here in this next year.
And right now we're recording end of 2023.
Yeah.
This will probably be live beginning of 2024. So, I mean, things are subject to change. So if you need up-to-date stuff, you probably want to reach out to Dylan or follow one of the social media platforms below to get kind of better information. Are you a solo agent? Do you have a team? What's your business look like?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently on a team with Keller Williams. So I started with Keller Williams. I kind of wanted the foundational classes and everything and opportunities that they provided. So yeah, work with a team, been with the team for just a little over a year now, and things have been going pretty smooth.
Gotcha. So are you kind of like considered like a buyer's agent, a solo agent? I mean, is it a team under the Keller Williams brand, or is it, you mean just the team aspect of Keller Williams in general?
No, so so I started off as a buyer's agent.
Okay.
I knew pretty quick that I wanted to be more listing based. But just with the reality of, being active duty military when I first started, I knew that it was just going to be one of those things that was difficult to balance. So I started off as a buyer's agent on the team with the Crystal Ward real estate team. And he was actually a Marine himself, which kind of, drew me to the team. And so started off that way and then starting to picking up listings now.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess for people listening, what's the benefit for you, I guess, to be part of a team instead of being on your own?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, especially for me being, like I said, when I first got in, I was an active duty Marine. So essentially trying to do two full-time jobs. So being on a team allowed me to kind of leverage my time a little bit better, and leverage the opportunities that the team brought with, we had a full-time transaction coordinator, and obviously having, the team lead he's bringing in the listings and leads and stuff. It definitely kind of helped me get that kickstart, into the business where a lot of agents, they just kind of don't know where to start. And so it definitely having that support on the back end, especially administratively on the transaction coordination side, definitely helped a lot with the beginning of business.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, you talked about the military. How long were you in the military for?
Yeah. So joined the Marine Corps in 2012, right out of high school. Been in the Marine Corps for a little over 11 years, and it's been really good. I got the opportunity to do a lot of fun stuff in the Marine Corps, and then really just kind of decide. I got to a point in my career where a lot of the time that I spent away from my family and stuff like that, I realized that it wasn't where I wanted to be with my family dynamic, and so I started to make that pivot.
The dynamic, not just like time aspect, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was time. A lot of it was flexibility of just being able to be present. And, I find myself in a lot of times where I would be, I'd be home, but I wouldn't be home. You know what I'm saying? Just because I was worried about things. I was going back at work or whatever the case was. And so, and then I guess just to kind of go into how I got into real estate. So I had been on a pretty fast pass with the Marine Corps path in the Marine Corps as far as getting promoted and stuff like that, and ended up becoming the drill instructor of the year for the Marine Corps, and then went to be an officer. And when I was at officer candidate school, I had realized, like, man, my son was born while I was on deployment. I shortly after that went to be a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, and being a drill instructor is essentially a 3-year deployment because you're away from your family more than you're there, and just kind of realized that I'm missing a lot, and honestly I prayed and was like, God, just give me a sign on the path that you want me to be, while I was at officer candidate school, and the next day I got COVID.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up getting dropped, and it's kind of just weird, and then my family was already in Texas because I was moving them here, and it was like, well, God, show me a way, to get to the family, because there's only one duty station around here, and I ended up getting orders there, and then met my team lead and everything else. So it was pretty cool. Everything worked out.
So how long did it take you with the idea of trying to find a different path to be close to your family, compared to actually finding the team lead, finding real estate, and kind of jumping into it?
Yeah. So it was one of those things. I bought my first house when I was in California when I was a drill instructor. And so I started to really enjoy real estate, and I started really dive into the bigger pockets world and real estate investing. And so I started to really enjoy that. And so I had an idea that was an opportunity that I wanted to pursue and see like what I thought about it, or just something in the entrepreneurial space. And that kind of allowed me to get in the entrepreneurial space, help other people, which is what I enjoy just in general. And so I found real estate pretty quick. It was just everything else as far as the team lead. Again, it's just God leading me, because so back in 2021, when we had the Abbey Gate bombing in the pool in the Middle East, one of my recruits was one of the ones who he was a victim of the bombing, and it was a pretty hard time for me. And I actually had someone that I'd known out here, and was like, hey, do you know any groups out here that are military minded? And he was like, yeah, no, I got the perfect group. And he invited me over there, and there is when I met my team lead, and just kind of, I told them that I was wanting to get into real estate, and they were like, he's like, yeah, whenever you decide to get your license, let me know, and I'll teach you what I know. And just kind of was a smooth transition from there.
So now, are you, I guess, still in the military? Are you fully out, or?
So I'm getting medically retired.
Okay. So I mean, with something like that, you mean I think, right, with the medical retired, being in the military for 11 years, you probably get some sort of like kind of retirement, right? Or no?
Yeah. So I'll get whatever the VA rates me. As far as disability goes, that'll be kind of what I'll get in retirement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's probably some people, being in the real estate space, right? You talk to some realtors that don't have like a low overhead, right? Like they're getting the retirement or something else, and their hunger is really not there to do stuff, right? I mean, so where does that kind of hunger come from for you?
For me, I think it's just because my hunger is not directly derived to my income. It's derived to legitimately be able to help other people. I mean, that's the one thing. That's the beauty of being in the Marine Corps for 11 years. I mean, no matter how hard you work, you still get paid, the same as the person who's the same rank as you, no matter how hard they're working versus you. So for me, I think that kind of started that drive. I mean, obviously as a Marine, you're always trying to do things the best you can, and set an example, especially as a leader. And so I think that helped me as I made that transition to not be attached to the outcome as far as money goes, but as far as the impact you make on your clients. And so I think that's one thing that's helped me a lot.
So like helping them. I mean, and I know you talked about investing and things like that. I mean, where do you see the most value that you're bringing to these people?
So one, obviously, like I said, the investing side, having a knowledge of that. So helping them, if that's a route they want to go, but also just being real with them, and not having that commission breath of those agents that are just wanting to sell someone, or make them sell their home, or make them buy a home. One thing I'm very clear with my clients is look, excuse me. My job's not here is not to make you buy or sell a home. My job here is to help you through this process, provide perspective, educate you in what you don't know. So that way, when it comes to making that decision, you can make the most solid decision, that you are happy and comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's something that helps a lot of people because it takes that pressure off them. And it's not like, oh, I've got this agent that's wanting to just sell me a house. Like they know that, I've got their best interests at heart, which obviously is the goal of real estate. Being an agent, you're supposed to have that fiduciary duty. But I think that just coming from a place of genuine care and being able to tell them like, hey, I know that you want to sell your house, but right now it might not be the right time. Like you don't necessarily have a strong why or, hey, this house is paid off and, like for instance, I have a client, they had a house in the family. They were going to try to sell it. But they didn't have a house themselves and they were going to try to buy a house. And I was like, well, I understand you want to sell it, but why not just, put a little bit of money in it, get it to where you want and just stay there. And now you have a paid off house, Yeah. I could have easily been like, no, let's sell the house and then help you buy a house and I get paid on both ends. But, that wasn't what seemed to be the best for them. You know what I'm saying?
And I know your journey in real estate hasn't been, I think, drastic long. I think it's been a couple of years, right?
No, it's just been a year and going on 5 months.
Okay. So about a year and a half. I mean, where have you seen the biggest hurdle in kind of like getting into this business?
So for me, I think it was just trying to find the harmony and I'm still in that process. And I don't say balance because it's impossible to balance, life when it comes to occupation, family, and everything else. But finding the harmony between everything and finding where, everyone understands, hey, this time, at this time to this time, we're working. At this time to this time, it's family time, stuff like that. So I think that was probably one of the hardest things as far as, getting that harmony within work-life balance.
So how do you do that?
Time blocking,
Okay.
putting everything on a calendar. Like for me, everything's on my calendar, so taking that approach of if it's not on your calendar, it's not a thing. Like just took that to heart and that really helped a lot.
And does your family, especially because you said you have some young 11-year-olds and 12-year-old kid, right? So
yeah,
did they
12
respect
and
that time?
7, yeah. What's that?
Did they respect the calendar?
I mean, for the most part, I mean, obviously it's mainly up to us as parents to kind of help hold them to the calendar and kind of like help teach them. It's one thing I'm glad that we got into because we really didn't get into it until I got into real estate.
Yeah.
But I think it's one thing that also helps us as parents to help teach them now. So that way, as they grow older, they get used to that, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people could benefit from, because once you start time blocking things, you realize how much time you're really wasting in life.
Yeah. In like you talked about, like this kind of hectic market that we are probably going to get into.
Right.
What are you doing to kind of separate yourself from the other realtors out there?
Good question. Honestly, I think it's just one, follow up. I think a lot of agents don't really follow up, and they don't, they make that contact, and if they don't get the sale, they're like, okay, I'll talk to you later. But just following up with them, coming from a place of concern, not coming from a place of just wanting to make them sell or buy. I think that's really just one of the things that it's a no pressure situation, so they feel comfortable. Like I had one person that we got off the phone, and then he called me, or he sent me a text afterwards, like, hey, just send me a listing agreement. Like, it's obvious that you're not here to just sell it. Like, you're here to help, and really appreciate the conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. So
is it where are those leads coming from? Is it most database? Is it like door knocking? I mean, what does it look like?
So right now, 60% of my business is military.
Okay.
20%, now about 30% is either client or lender referral, and then what was that, 60, about 30, and then about 10% is team lead.
So when you talk about the military, I mean, there's probably, I mean, again, people, I mean, I'm in a relative military town too. And people are usually stationed for 4 years, 5 years, right?
Yeah. 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm.
3 to 4 years, right? So why does it, for those people right there, does it always make sense for them to purchase when they're getting stationed in your neck of the woods, or what does that usually look like? What's that conversation usually look like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, for me, I think that it makes sense depending on where you're at in your contract, obviously, and then also depending on how you buy and what your intent is. So, like, if you're just wanting to buy to have a house, then if you're going to sell it in a year, then it's not really the best idea. But if you're just not getting here, you either plan to rent it out or something like that. That's when I think that it's beneficial, because at the end of the day, you can turn that into an investment property. Like you said, people are always, it's always it's a revolving door,
Mm.
so there's always new military members here that are going to need a house. So if they decide to rent, they've got a renter there. So it's one of those things that I think that it's beneficial. And for me, because like I said, I bought my first house in California. That was my first rental property.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is, or at least for the military community, is excuse me, don't buy for the intent for your forever home, because you're
Yeah.
not going to be living there. Buy this as a stepping stone to that forever home, as an investment property, something that you can turn over and rent pretty easily afterwards, and that can build and appreciate over time, and you get cash flow, and that can be the stepping stone to your forever home whenever you retire.
When I mean, and I know for my own clients, right? Sometimes they're scared about if they're moving from San Diego to like New York or back east somewhere, right?
Right.
Because now they have to get a property manager that they can trust, because they're not going to actually be there to manage the property. I mean, how do you kind of help people with those doubts? I mean, do you do property management yourself? Do you set them up, or what do you what's that conversation look like?
So for me, I actually am in the process of going self-managed.
Okay.
So I did use a property manager for the first, so my house in California is still with the property manager, but personally, I think that if you're under, 10, I would say, properties, that there's software out there that's pretty smooth
Mm.
to self-manage. So that's what kind of where I'm going to right now, is the self-management side, and just putting it in there, and doing it that way. Just because again, when your portfolio is small, and obviously it also depends on the amount of time you have, right?
Mm.
But for me, like, it's not like my tenant, I have really good communication with them. And so it's pretty smooth, as far like, and then like I said, there's software out there that's pretty cost effective, especially compared to using a property manager, where the monthly cost of having that software is far less than having a property manager. And it's just as easy to make a quick call, have your vendor list, and so that way, hey, something's wrong with the plumbing, you call your plumber, they go out there and fix it.
What's the software, if you don't mind me asking?
So the one that I'm using is Tenant Cloud.
Okay. And then what about like finding tenants for your property, right? If you're not local.
Yeah, so Tenant Cloud actually offers the opportunity to, it'll put it on all those platforms. So like,
Oh,
the different, it'll help you make your listing, you put it out there, and then for me being an agent in Texas, I can put it on the MLS myself as well. So
gotcha.
that also helps.
And then what for showings on the property?
Yeah, for showings, obviously the tenant should have an agent to do it. Like for the one in California,
Yeah.
luckily in California, I haven't any turnover. But assuming that I have turnover and stuff like that, they would just need to be accompanied by an agent, or I'd find a local agent to team up with and be like, hey, any leads I get, I'll give it to you, so you can show the property.
Gotcha. All right. So basically you get the agent or whatever to help kind of assist to find the tenant, but then you kind of manage it yourself
Right.
kind of
Mhm.
remotely.
Yep. Exactly.
Gotcha. So where do you see your business going over the next couple of years? I mean, what are the plans for it? Where do you see the growth? I mean, where are you looking?
Yeah. So as far as the outlook, eventually I want to have my own team, whether that's a team within my current team, or whatever route that looks like. But I want to build my own team, just because for me in the Marine Corps, leadership is a big thing for me, and I enjoy the ability to help and coach others. So whether that's in the coaching space directly, or just being a team lead, and then just continuing to grow the business year over year. and then get into a point where, eventually long term, because for me, real estate is a point that I can leverage into other opportunities to help other people grow, whether it's by, share my testimony, whether it's just, like I said, coaching, or just other entrepreneurial things. That's kind of the goal with everything.
So the real estate is kind of an end to the mean kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
What so where do you plan to diversify? I know you were kind of talked about that you have a rental or rentals. Where do you plan to diversify then with the other avenues?
Yeah, so continue building my investment properties. Get into more of the social media, whether it's YouTube, podcast, stuff like that. Kind of like what you're doing as well. Motivational keynote speakers, and then just kind of going where God leads me. Because for me, especially going into this next year, it's just like, for me, I'm a man of faith, and I feel like, I made a video actually a couple of weeks ago. I haven't posted it, and I'm going to post it at the end of next year. But essentially, it felt like God was just telling me, that to use the platform that I have in real estate, whether it's people I'm helping or the people that I talk to share my testimony and what I've done and been able to do by just trusting in Him and going through that path, and He'll provide. And it's funny because I made that video, and then shortly after that, made that last month, and then ended up getting about to be 5 under contract. Got this podcast opportunity. Found my forever home. We're under contract on that. Like, it's just all these things are starting to just to come together, and it's like, wow, And for me, continuing to grow in this and continue to trust in the process and trust in where He's guiding me. Just an opportunity to also help others and show them, the saying that I like is He doesn't, God doesn't He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And I think my career, both in the Marine Corps and outside the Marine Corps, is a testament that, that's true. If you just trust in the opportunities that He provides and you take them, He will qualify you there. You don't have to go in qualified. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Do you lean into the religious aspect of it, like when you're talking to your clients, or is it something, or even social media? I mean, I would think there's probably, and we even talked about this before we got a mic, right? You're like,
Yeah.
Hey, is it okay to bring that up? And for me, I mean, it's who you are, right? I mean,
right.
If you look behind me, I'm a huge Pottery fan, so that's the one thing that I really lean on social media out there. But like when it comes to like politics or things like that, I try to steer away from it as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
No,
like
I'm right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, but for you, I mean, is it something that you're putting out there? I don't know, aggressively is the right word, but something putting it out there where you might deter some people, or is it something you're leaning into that, hey, the people that really relate to that are going to relate to me?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I didn't put out there as much, but I'm starting to now, because again, like I felt here lately that's kind of, where I've been guided, just kind of taking a look at everything and seeing all the opportunities that I've had and everything that I've done both in the Marine Corps and out. And because I've always prayed right before I make a big decision, I've gone to courses that, I felt like I wasn't even ready for, or got into this career that I wasn't sure if it was going to work out. But every time beforehand, I would pray. One second, before every all those big items, I would just pray, like, Lord, just be with me, help me through this, and let your will be done. And then I end up being honor grad at every course I've gone. I've been able to perform at a top level, and it's just one of those things that it feels like, regardless of what it is, that that it's an opportunity to show, like, hey, look, I didn't go here just being the best at this, the best at that. Like, I went here trusting that, there's a plan with it, and everything else came together afterwards.
So is it more of, I guess, the North Star, or is it kind of like a leaf in the wind? I don't know, like the best way to describe it, when you're kind of thinking, okay, I want to do this and I'm just going to leave it up to a higher power, God, right? Or is it, I know I have to go in this direction, I have to be aware of these outcomes, and God's going to help me down that rabbit hole?
That's a good question. I would say that it's kind of a mixture of both, because like I have these plans that I want to do, and it's one of those things that it's almost like when I put them out there, whether I pray about it or just write them down as far as goals and stuff, even without knowing, like become they've come to fruition. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's speaking into existence or whatever. Like I made the checklist whenever I was in officer candidate school and I was praying for a sign, and then I got COVID and got dropped. I made this checklist of road to millionaire, like of my 5-10 year goals, and I just wrote it down and forgot about it. And I want to say last week I was looking through my notes and I found it, and I had already achieved, in sequential order, over half of what I'd written down already.
That's awesome.
Right. So it's just, I would say that it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of both, that I have an idea of the path that I want to take, but then at the same time, I take the opportunities as they come.
Gotcha. No, it's powerful. I mean, having something you believe in, I mean, I'm guessing in the low moments too, when you're like you said, when you're kind of stressing out, are you ready for basic real estate? You ready for this?
Right.
I mean,
right.
The praying aspect of it kind of brings you back on track.
Yeah. I would say so. That, it's one of those things that when I question myself and after I pray about it and I just go forward with it and just, put it out there that, hey, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I go forward and, it hasn't failed me yet. Every time, pretty much every opportunity has unfurled to be a great opportunity and it ends up working out. So it's one of those things that if it didn't work out, then I would just take it as a sign of, hey, that wasn't meant to be at that time.
Well, Dylan, I appreciate so much for being on the Road to It podcast. If someone's listening and they're looking in the kind of Rockwall, Texas area or surrounding area, I mean, what's the best way on getting more information or just kind of following your the stuff you put out there, the content you put out there? Yeah.
So right now, big on Instagram. That's my main platform. I'm looking to get into YouTube here in this next year. On Instagram, it's _the Dylan Hernandez. Facebook is just Dylan Hernandez Realtor. Pretty much if you Google Dylan Hernandez Realtor, you'll find all my social media platforms and stuff like that, Google reviews, all that fun stuff. And
in the show notes, all his information is there. I'm going to finish off with one last question.
Okay.
Where do you predict the market's going to be by this time next year?
So based off of what they're putting out there, assuming that the Fed does the drops that they're projecting to do and everything else, I see us being not back in where we were in 2021 and everything, where everything we were at. I don't foresee us going back to 2 and 3% interest rates, but I do foresee an influx of buyers because lower interest rates. I think we'll probably get to the 4s, and we're going to see competition ramp up and appreciation drive up. And just kind of be in that market in that sense where you're going into multiple offers, you're having to compete, and sellers are able to get their houses sold pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Is the inventory fairly robust over there, or is it kind of smaller, or what is it?
It's still pretty small. We're still, I want to say, around the 3-month mark.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, we're about roughly about a month with the inventory. I mean,
really.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Are you in San Diego County?
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah, it's crazy because that's still the most expensive county in the U.S. right now, right?
No. We're top 10, but
okay,
no,
gotcha.
not.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I think I'm guessing. I think it's probably somewhere in San Francisco and somewhere.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Stuff. But yeah, I know we're. I think for sure. I think I saw somewhere we're top 10. So yeah, it's it's crazy. I have a lot of people that are moving to Texas. Moving to Idaho, moving to random places just to basically get better pricing and a lot bigger of a home.
Yeah. I've had a good amount that are moving out of the California area just because of the cost of living. But it comes with a hot market, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you so much. Hopefully everyone got some great nuggets right there. I mean, I think, and it's, I mean, about a year and a half Dylan's talked about it, that it took him to kind of figure out to put out who he really is. I mean, a man of faith, a man of military, a man of structure, right? I mean, building that business into it. We're going to have other realtors on here, and they're going to talk about other structures that they do, like events or things like that. But for me, I can relate to Dylan because structure is my whole life. If it's on your calendar, it doesn't exist. That's really what it is. It's the power of the structure. So thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe, please share, go in the show notes, and go find Dylan. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me.